You ever look at a pile of lumber and see a weekend of relaxation, but the lumber looks back at you and sees a week of backbreaking labor and 3 trips to the hardware store for the one bolt you forgot?
Only every time we start a project, Tiger. But today we're talking decks. The big one. The outdoor living room. The place where dreams of summer barbecues go to meet the reality of local building codes.
It's a transition zone. It's not quite the house, not quite the yard. It's that middle ground where you can sit in your underwear with a coffee and feel like you're exploring the wild. But building one, man, if you don't respect the process will find a way to humble you. I once watched a guy try to eyeball his ledger board height. A month later, his sliding glass door was basically a very expensive window because the deck was 3 inches too high.
Ouch, that is painful. So for everyone listening who wants their doors to, actually open, where do we start? Is it just sketching on a napkin, or are we getting serious right out of the gate?
Most folks treat the planning like the boring homework before the fun party, but that's where the deck lives or dies. You have to ask, what's the job of this space? Are you throwing 30-person neighborhood bashes, or are you just trying to hide from your neighbors? That dictates your size. And please, for the love of all things level, check your permits. The city inspector doesn't care how beautiful your craftsmanship is if you didn't tell them you were digging holes.
People always think the permit is just a tax, but it's really about not having your deck collapse during Thanksgiving dinner. So once we've got the layout and the blessing of the local government, we hit the material aisle. Wood versus composite. It's the age-old debate.
It's the battle of the ages. Pressure-treated wood is the old reliable. It smells like a job site, it looks classic, and it's easier on the wallet up front. But it's a thirsty beast. You'll be out there staining and sealing it every couple of years like you're detailing a vintage car. Then you have the modern composite stuff, PVC and the like. It's like buying a deck that never grows old. It doesn't rot, doesn't splinter, and you wash it with a garden hose.
There's a catch, though, right? There's always a catch.
The price tag will make your eyes water. And it holds heat. If you go with a dark composite in direct sunlight, you'll be able to fry an egg on your floorboards by noon. You have to pick your poison. Lower cost now, with more sweat later, or pay the piper today so you can nap tomorrow.
Okay, let's get dirty. The foundation. This is where most people get impatient. They just want to start nailing boards together, but the ground is literally the boss here.
If the ground isn't happy, nobody's happy. You're digging footers, and you've got to get below that frost line. If you don't, the winter frost will grab your deck and heave it upward like a slow-motion earthquake. I spent a whole Tuesday once digging through clay that felt like I was trying to shovel frozen peanut butter. It's miserable work, but those concrete piers are the only thing keeping your investment from becoming a very large pile of firewood.
And then comes the ledger board. That's the piece that actually touches the house. I've heard you say that's the most critical connection in the whole build.
It's the heart of the beast, Alex. If that ledger fails, the whole deck folds like a cheap lawn chair. You're bolting it to the house rim joist. You've got to strip the siding, properly, mind you, and get that flashing in there. Water is the silent assassin. It sneaks behind that board, rots your house frame, and by the time you notice, you're looking at a 5-figure repair bill. I always tell people, if you're gonna overdo it anywhere, overdo it on the waterproofing there, use the good joist tape, don't be stingy.
So we've got our ledger, our footers are set, and now we're staring at a bunch of 2x10s. This is the framing stage. It's basically a giant, heavy puzzle.
It's a game of square and level. You set your beams on those posts, and then you start dropping joists, usually 16 inches on center. Unless you're going fancy with a diagonal pattern, then you're shrinking that gap to 12 inches. And here's a tip most people overlook. Check the crowns. Every piece of wood has a slight curve. You want all those curves pointing up. If you mix them up, your deck floor will feel like a roller coaster under your feet.
I remember helping a friend who put half the crowns down. Walking across it felt like navigating a series of very small wooden hills.
It's a great way to make your guests feel like they've had 3 drinks before the party even starts.
Once the skeleton is up, we get to the satisfaction phase, the decking itself. This is where it finally starts looking like a deck and not just a weird wooden cage in the yard.
This is the reward. But if you're using composite, remember it expands and contracts. If you jam those boards tight against each other on a cold morning, by the time the sun hits them at 2 p.m., they're going to buckle and scream. You need spacers. Consistent gaps. It's the difference between a pro job and something that looks like it was assembled by a distractible squirrel.
What about fasteners? I hate seeing a beautiful floor covered in shiny screw heads.
Hidden fasteners are God's gift to deck builders. They clip into the sides of the board so the surface stays clean. It takes a bit longer, but man, it feels good to walk barefoot on a surface that isn't a minefield of potential snags. And if you really want to show off, do a picture frame border. Run a board perpendicular around the edge. It hides the ugly end cuts of your lumber and makes the whole thing pop like a piece of fine furniture.
You make it sound so elegant, but we haven't talked about the literal safety part yet. The railings. I feel like that's where the DIY projects usually start to look a bit shaky.
Railings are where the physics gets real. They're not just there to look pretty, they're there to stop a 200-pound human from taking a tumble into the rose bushes. You can't just toe screw a post to the top of the decking and call it a day. Those posts need to be structural. They need to be bolted into the framing with heavy-duty hardware. I like to say a railing should feel like a stone wall when you lean on it. If it wiggles, you're not done yet.
And usually, where there's a deck, there are stairs, which, let's be honest, is basically just math disguised as manual labor.
Stairs are the final boss. You're calculating rise and run, trying to make sure the last step isn't 2 inches taller than the others. I've spent more time staring at a stringer with a framing square, scratching my head, than I care to admit. If you get the math wrong, every time someone walks up those stairs, they'll stumble. Humans have this internal rhythm for steps, and if you break it by even a quarter inch, their brains just go, nope.
So, we've planned, dug, framed, floored, and railed. We're at the finish line. What's the one thing you want people to take away from all this labor?
We spend so much time worrying about the screws and the lumber, but the real point of a deck is the feeling you get when you finally put the tools away. It's that first evening where the sun is low, the grill is ticking as it cools down, and you realized you built a place where memories are actually going to happen.
That's surprisingly poetic for a guy who just spent 10 minutes complaining about frozen peanut butter dirt.
Hey, I contain multitudes, Alex. Just remember, build it for the long haul. Don't take shortcuts on the stuff you can't see once the boards are down. The flashing, the footers, the joist tape, that's the insurance policy for your future relaxation.
Wise words. Well, I think I'm ready to go buy a new impact driver and start digging. Or maybe I'll just sit on your deck and watch you do it.
Nice try. You're on hole digging duty. Thanks for joining us in the den. Now go build something that lasts.